I guess one way of saying it, the way I like to say it is through the informal activity of play, we scaffold the concepts and ideas that we will engage with formally in school and, in fact, in life as well. But the problem is that play has no agenda. Players' motivations are entirely intrinsic and personal. And so the question is, to go back to my example of the blocks, how could you guarantee that if you sat me down with the blocks that I'd learn it? And in fact, just to amplify that a little bit, I think that for play to work as play, there have to be certain freedoms, certain affordances. One of them is the freedom to experiment. I think that goes without saying what I mean by that, just the chance to try things out. And a corollary thing is the freedom to fail. Your experiments can't always work. The child who builds the building then knocks it down. I mean, maybe that they need that ability to fail. They can't. If you said build a structure that's so strong you can't knock it down, well, that's suddenly a big burden. But the ability to build something and see what it takes to knock it down that's part of play. The freedom to try on identities. In the child playing with the dolls as an example, but also just as a player, the freedom to say, today I'm going to be a really aggressive player, the next time maybe I'm going to be sort of a different kind of more thoughtful player. This is the first two. I think it's easy to relate it to post-secondary education. I think this one is still important in post-secondary education. I think people, and in life in general, I think the ability to keep trying on different approaches to the world, to not be trapped in the persona that you've sort of built, the shell that you've built for yourself to make it through the day. You've got to play. You've got to somehow be able to break out of that shell from time to time. And then freedom of effort. A child playing in a schoolyard can run hard and evade the tag for 20 minutes, and then suddenly stop and choose to get tagged. That's the way it works. And I go back to my example of playing hard one day, playing not so hard the next. You need to be able to do that in every session. I mentioned all of these. If you think about it, that's really what we all sort of want to see in learning. We all imagine that's what's involved in learning, and yet it's never in school. It's rarely in school. Think about where are the opportunities to fail. Maybe there's some opportunities to experiment, but they're fairly limited because you're not allowed to fail. And you're certainly not given a lot of luxury about freedom of identity, nor is your effort often, are you allowed to sort of ramp up or relax your effort. And I'm saying school, I am talking about mostly K-12, but I think some of that also happens in post-secondary education. The other thing is, if you think about these, none of the four freedoms are present in most so-called educational games as they exist, and they are all in Grand Theft Auto. So, for all their flaws, the commercial game developers have tended to realize they've had to understand what it takes to be able to play and to learn, because in fact a huge amount of learning is going on in those games, whether it's academic or not. And a lot of the so-called educational games don't. They're just trying to stuff content. I always add that point because I'm a big fan of teachers. Most teachers I know are really pretty dedicated and committed. And so when I say that school doesn't have these, it's currently embodied. It's the way school is run now. It's not because I think that somehow teachers are incapable of doing otherwise. So to get to my original point, it's not what you know, but how you learn. I know it's a little bit casual. It's glib. But what I really mean is that if you've learned something through that kind of, if you've been stuffed the way I was stuffed with my calculus, I may know it on some level, but I didn't really learn it. I didn't learn it right, and I don't really know it. I don't know it the way I need to know it.